Hey there. So my name's Matt. What I've decided to do today is I've had a couple of questions regarding virtual machines. These are great for software testing, operating system testing. So if you want to test out Linux or even a copy of Windows, if you wanted to run some applications you weren't sure if they've got viruses in them, or open files. There's so many uses. You can operate multiple operating systems on one physical machine, so that's great for servers. A lot of the big data centers basically just run several copies of operating systems running different things. So you'll have one dedicated to mail server, one dedicated to file sharing, and so on and so on. So what I've decided to do today, however, is show you how to install a basic Windows installation. So as you can see here, I'm actually currently running Windows 8.1. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install Windows 7 inside of a virtual machine. So I will in the end have Windows 8.1, but then also have Windows 7 as well inside of the Windows 8.1 machine. I will be using this mostly for testing and also making these videos so I don't mess up my main machine. Sorry. So there is several different products to use, free products, in fact. Windows does come with something called HyperV. I personally don't like it. I don't find it as user-friendly, and yeah, I'm just not a personal fan, but there is a way to enable that. What I'll show you first, I'll just show you it quickly. So basically you would go to your start menu. Now this is Windows 8.1. I haven't installed Classic Shell on here, so I can have the start menu back. So if you go to Classic Shell, you can get your start menu back on Windows 8.1. It's really cool. It's a free product as well. So what you would do is you would go to, you would type it here, you'd go Programs and Features. So you go Turn Windows Features on or off. Okay, so if you wanted to install Hyper-V, which is Microsoft's version of virtual machine built in, you would simply come here and you would tick Hyper-V. We don't really want to do that. I'll just install this quickly so I can. There you go. As you can see, Hyper-V right there. So we don't want to do that though. So I'm going to leave that off. There's also VirtualBox. I haven't got it installed on the machine because I use it, but it's kind of tricky for when it comes to using having things plugging in like USB sticks or hard drives, things like that. It's not the best at detecting them. There's a lot of settings you'd have to tweak just to get them running, installing different stuff. I found that one that works best for me is VMware Workstation or VMware Workstation Player. Now that one tends to work a lot more easier for plugging in USBs and things like that, which occasionally you want to do if you want to run something off a USB inside a virtual machine. So I'm going to install. I've got I've got VM Workstation Player. I'm going to start this up. I've already installed it. You can get it from VMware.com. You can Google it. It's quite easy. As you can see, I've currently got a Windows 8.1 virtual machine here. I don't know why it actually detects it as Windows 10, but it is actually 8.1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the processes of how to start up a virtual machine. Okay, so what you can actually do is if you go to Home here, you click on Create a New Virtual Machine. This is quite simple. I've actually you can choose if you have your operating system on a disk. You can install it from your disk drive, but I'm using a ISO file that I have on the computer. It's currently set to Windows 8.1 because that's the last one I used. You can also install the operating system later if you choose, if you just want to create the virtual machine for now. So I'm going to go to Browse, and I'm already on the desktop, so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose my Windows 7 ISO. I'm going to click Next. And once again, it keeps saying Windows 10 is detected. I'm not sure why, as you can see right there, but it's there. Okay, so go here, I'm going to name this to what I want, so I'm going to call it Windows 7, and it is the 64-bit edition. Next. Now, as you can see here, it does say splitting the disk makes it easier to move the virtual machine to another computer, but may reduce the performance of very large disks. So if you plan to use this virtual machine onto more than one system, I would go with that. However, I'm just planning to use it on this one machine, and I don't really care if I lose the virtual machine because it's not really an issue. So next, okay. So this is just giving you a bit of a summary of how it's currently set. You can come in here and customize it. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to Network Adapter, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to Bridged. Now the reason I'm going to do Bridged is because it will actually allow me to remotely connect into this virtual machine through my home network, because it basically it joins itself with the network adapter of the host machine. Otherwise it would just create its own IP address. So I'm going to configure here and check that it's the right one. That's correct. There's only one to choose from. So I'm going to choose this here, replicate physical network state. So it'll be the same. If I disable on this machine, it'll disable in the virtual machine and vice versa. So everything else seems fine. You can increase your memory. You can increase the cores you want to use if you have multiple cores on your CPU. This CPU I'm using is, I think it's a triple core, maybe, I don't know, but I'm just going to stick with the one core for now. You can increase the memory if you want, depending on how much memory you've got in your system. This current one I have only has 4 gigs, so I'm just going to keep it at 1 because it has to run not only the Windows behind it, but also the virtual machine as well, so I don't want to put too much RAM into it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to leave pretty much everything as is, except for that network adapter I've just changed. I'm going to close that, and I can power on this virtual machine once I hit finish, so I can certainly do that. So I want to start it and get it going straight away. It's going to now create that virtual hard disk, which is a isolated hard drive within the hard drive. So that means if you have a virus or something on the system, it won't affect your outside system unless it was to get through the network, but that's a bit unlikely. You can certainly turn off that bridged connection if that's something if you're concerned about. It'll then have its own little network ecosystem. So just wait for this to hurry up and create the disk. This computer isn't the fastest, so it does take a little while. I really like these because they're great for testing out Linux distributions if you're sort of deciding on making the change to Windows, from Windows, but you're not quite sure yet and you don't really want to wipe your hard drive and install it all if you don't really like it or can't use it or whatever. So, but they're also great for things like this, where I'm using it to test products or to demonstrate products without affecting my own system. So I can record, I can change and do everything I want in that Windows machine. If it breaks or whatever, then there's no real fault. I just delete and recreate a new one. I don't have to wipe all my data and everything else on my files. So yeah, it's certainly a great benefit to having virtual machines versus just installing Windows on top of installing Linux or Windows on top of your host machine, which is the computer we're running this on. Okay. So now that's done, it's going to boot up. It acts just as if you were booting up your computer. It's going to come here and it's going to begin the installation process just as if I was installing it on the machine itself. So you've actually got your little options up here where you can add and remove devices. You can use the power options to shut down. Although I would seriously recommend, if you're shutting down the virtual machine, to use the the shutdown button inside of the operating system on the virtual machine. But yeah, just because it just makes sure it shuts down correctly and there's no sort of corruption issues later on. Yeah, and this is pretty much how you would do it if you installed it on your normal machine. You would just go through and you would choose what your settings, what language, where location, and all that, and you just go through and set all that stuff, and you install it as you normally would. And once it's installed, it'll actually display. What I'll do is I'll pause this video because it takes a little while, and once it's installed, I'll actually show you guys how it boots up for the first time, just like a regular machine. Alright, so I'll be right back. Actually, what I thought I might do is I might just actually show you how to go through the installation process, just in case you guys have never installed a operating system before. Like I said, you can't really break these things that seriously, so it's not really an issue. So I personally am going to come here and go to custom because it's a fresh install. You can create partitions here if you wish, if you want to have separate your windows from, say, your data, but I'm just going to keep it all default because I'm just going to install. Okay, so now it's going to begin the installation. I will pause it here again because of the fact that it is going to take a while, and I don't want this to be like a 45-minute video. I tend to ramble enough as it is, but yeah, so I'm just going to pause it, and we'll be right back. Hey, so we're back. I've installed Windows 7 into this virtual machine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how you boot it up for the first time. I have done it prior to recording again, just to double check that it was working okay, but I thought I'd show you the process. So basically what you would do is you would open up your VMware Workstation or VirtualBox or whatever it is you may be using. As I said, I'm going to be using VMware Workstation. I just find it more suited to my taste. So you just click on your desktop icon for that, and you would select it from the start here. I ended up installing a 32-bit version, not the 64-bit, so I could edit that name if I want, but it's not really an issue. I'll just do it anyway. So x86, which is 32-bit. I'm not sure what's done to that, but I'm going to set it to that. Okay. And then what you do is you select the one you want, so it's either this one, and then you hit Play Virtual Machine. Now what it'll do, it will boot up, just like it would normal Windows. What I'll actually do is I'll focus this so it focuses on that machine itself. There we go. So it's just booting up as normal. This is now in the virtual machine as you just saw me booting it up. And pretty much this is all you have to do to run them. It's fairly simple. Once you've installed it, you've created the hard drive, I should say, set up your settings, install it, you can then run it like a normal Windows computer. It's very simple. It does require a fair amount of RAM depending on what it is you're running. I mean, I'm running this currently on 4 gig of RAM, which isn't the greatest. I should probably use at least 8, but that's all I currently have on here, and it doesn't run super fast, but it does run. The same applies for Linux. Of course, Linux has different system requirements. Most are actually less, so you should actually be able to run Linux operating systems within a virtual machine with less RAM, which is great because you get to test out and experiment with RAM and with Linux without having to remove your Windows machine that you're currently in. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. If you need any more information, let me know. But if you want to like and subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. I'll try and make some other stuff. At this stage, I'm just kind of trying to figure out what it is that you guys might be interested in learning, so then I can provide little videos and tips and tricks on how to do that. If you have anything in particular you want to learn, if I have some knowledge on it, I'll certainly try and make a video. But yeah, you'll just have to let me know. Alright, have a nice day, guys.